Hello, and welcome to today's video. For the longest time, I believed it was possible to heal without supplements. I thought we could use them to speed up the process, but that it was actually possible to do without supplemental support. However, something happened recently that's changed my mind on this, and I want to share this with you today. And not only do I want to tell you the story of what happened, but I want to talk to you about this supplement, how it's had a profound impact in my health, how I've been using it with many of my clients, and it's been having a very profound impact in their health as well. So the main reason that I believed that it was possible to heal without supplements is that there's a pretty good natural alternative to basically every supplement. Let's say we look at probiotics, for example, and I advocate for probiotics a lot. Well, you can have fermented foods, you can have kimchi, you can make your own yogurt, you can buy kefir. There is a lot of alternatives. So there is a way to bypass using a supplement there. And very often, I find that people are looking for health in a bottle and they're looking for a magic pill that's going to change everything for them. And I don't want to tell you that that's what I've discovered, but this has been profoundly impactful. Now, the reason that I believe this supplement is actually quite a game changer for most people and is really challenging to not use this product, as in we actually can't get a lot of the things in this product from natural sources, is due to soil depletion. So soil depletion is the idea that with the kind of agricultural practices that we've developed, so using tilling, so we basically break up the soil and we use this to kill the last crop or to kill weeds. The thing is, this destroys the soil ecology. It kills a lot of microbes. It's like taking antibiotics to heal a chronic gut problem. We're disrupting everything and it's not really how it's supposed to work. So we till the soils, we release all of the carbon, we release all of the nitrogen, we kill all of the microbes, and we break this soil ecology down, which is what basically enables the nutrients that are in the soil to be able to go into the plant structures that then we either eat directly or they go up the biodiversity chain. They go into cows, the chickens, the different things that we then eat. And we also utilize a lot of pesticides, so things like glyphosate. These are actually mineral chelators. These are antibiotic compounds. These are carcinogenic. And even now, if you buy organic produce, it will actually have a trace level of pesticides, which is tragically sad. And by now, you've probably guessed what this product is. This product is a trace mineral supplement. However, before you click off the video because you've tried a trace mineral supplement before and it maybe didn't do anything for you, let me talk to you about this specific trace mineral product and why I think it's been so impactful, because the dosages in this are actually quite significantly higher than what you would see in an average trace mineral product. So the product that I'm actually talking about today is the Trace Minerals Complex 2 from Seeking Health. And usually I'd have a little bottle that I'd be able to show you, but I don't have any. I ran out, and that is where I discovered this significant impact it was having on my health. So I was taking this product for about a month, about 30 days. I was taking one a day. There's 30 in a bottle. And I was taking this and I didn't really know that it was connected to this, but I was noticing, I'm feeling really strong. I'm feeling very resilient. My digestion has been feeling better. A lot of my ADHD or autistic kind of symptoms, they're really, really low. For me, this is already significantly improved from what it's been in the past. But I was noticing there was even more improvement in my ability to focus, my ability to stay concentrated on tasks. My emotional state was naturally better in a way where I had a lot less negative thoughts. I wasn't even aware were actually negative thoughts. And this was coming to me in the form of sort of like a low grade inflammatory kind of condition that I would feel as sort of like an anxiety or a depression. And my baseline is now so much higher than it was that I didn't really even feel like I wanted to complain at that level. But then with taking this product, my base increased to almost like the next level. And this felt like a massive breakthrough for me. But I only realized that this was a huge breakthrough when I ran out of the product. So what ended up happening was I'd come up to here, my metabolic rate had increased. So when you provide your body with surplus nutrients, it increases detox, it increases metabolism, it increases all of these functions that are influencing how you feel. So my body, from my baseline down here when I was really sick, was already up here. And I took this product and it increased the level up to here. But what happened is, as I ran out, my body was trying to function here, and I was only providing nutrients at this level. And I kind of had a bit of a crash. And what I noticed is my energy was terrible. I had this kind of like depersonalized, derealized kind of feeling. I didn't feel like I was really me. My fatigue in my body was really high, not in a chronic fatigue kind of way, but in this very weird abstract kind of way. It really felt more like on a mitochondrial level, my body just could not produce energy. It was a very odd feeling. And my brain just wouldn't work. I couldn't get it to concentrate or to focus on specific tasks. I remember I was trying to work through one of my work projects, and I can usually do 1 unit of work in about 10 minutes. And it took me about 2.5 hours to get 4 units of work done. It was really, really bad. My cognition was bad. And all of this is what helped me realize, wow, this product is what was making the difference for me. Now, you might be saying, well, you sound like you're pretty well there today. How are you feeling so good? Well, I actually bought a temporary product whilst this other one is getting shipped to me. And it has a lot of these trace minerals. It's not as impactful as the one that I'm talking about in today's video, but it's doing a good enough job of bumping me back up a little bit. But I can't wait until this other product arrives. So what I thought would be extremely helpful would be to take a look at this product in a little bit more detail and look at each of these ingredients, look at each of these trace mineral compounds and take a look at how they impact the body. Why are these specific compounds impactful for your health? What key mechanisms do they have of influencing the function of your body? I thought this would be really interesting because I'm going to learn a lot about this too. Because obviously I felt such a big improvement. I've done a lot of research into trying to understand why, because why would you not, because if I can understand how did this make me feel better, I might be able to do something to make me feel even better than that. And that's kind of what the healing journey is like. I don't just want to sell you a miracle cure in a bottle. I want to help you see how these ingredients could be impactful in your specific context based on the symptoms that you're experiencing in your body. And then you could decide if this is something that you want to try. So I'm just going to go through this as the ingredients are listed on the packet, and we're just going to work our way from top to bottom. So first of all, we have iodine. Iodine is really, really important. It is essential for thyroid hormone production, so T3 and T4. The reason these molecules are called T3 and T4 is they literally have, T3 has 3 molecules of iodine, T4 has 4 molecules of iodine. The hormone is literally named after the number of iodine molecules inside of it. That shows you how important it is for this. It's really important. Thyroid hormones are really important in regulating metabolism, energy, body temperature, brain development, and it also supports a lot of hormonal health, including breast, ovarian, and prostate health, because we have iodine receptors in these tissues as well. So if you're having any kind of hormonal problem, if you're having a thyroid issue, if you are feeling like you don't have much energy, or you can't regulate your body temperature, or you're having, so here it says it helps with brain development, but I would also be thinking that this is important for brain function too. So if you're experiencing any brain fog or cognitive decline, this could be beneficial. Now, we also have to ask the question, why is it that we don't get enough of this in our foods? So the first obvious point is the soil depletion, as I mentioned. The only place you really have iodine-rich soil nowadays is coastal regions, because we have a lot of iodine, especially in things like seaweed. I actually live in Portugal right now, and there's like a common tradition where you'll see all the old ladies going to the beach and they'll get this seaweed and it's very iodine rich, and they rub it on their backs. So they're basically trying to transdermally absorb the iodine through their skin. And you'll also see a lot of farmers, they will come with their tractors and scoop all of this iodine rich seaweed up and put it on their crops. They'll put it on their fields to kind of fertilize them. But this only happens in coastal regions. If you're getting crops that have been grown in the middle of the land, they're not going to have much iodine in it at all. It's all being depleted already. And another thing that's really worth considering on this angle is that we are exposed to a lot of different types of halides. So things like fluorine, fluoride, chlorine, chloride, bromide, these things are added a lot of the time to tap water. These can actually plug into these receptors, create this context of like competitive inhibition, and can essentially deplete the iodine in your body and then plug into these receptors and create a dysfunction. So iodine, really, really important, essential trace mineral. Next, we have zinc. I think zinc might be one of the things that's been really helpful for me personally. So zinc is a cofactor for 300 plus enzymes, is crucial for immune system health, hormones, skin, digestion, and wound healing. So it basically is doing a little bit of everything. Something that I discovered that I found really interesting, that I thought would be really interesting for you, was that it is essential in stomach acid production. So that one is really key. If you've got any kind of stomach acid problems, reflux, gastritis, anything like that, could be really important. And it's also used in enzyme activation for bile and bile synthesis and pancreatic production of digestive enzymes. So you can see how zinc is really a heavy hitter when it comes to digestive health, because we've got basically the holy trinity. We've got stomach acids, digestive enzymes, and bile. These are like three of the primary mechanisms by which your stomach, your digestive system actually breaks food down to help you assimilate and absorb it. And looking at the common reasons that zinc can be deficient, first of all, we've got anti-nutrients in foods. So things like phytates, phytic acid, this can bind to zinc. It has a very high affinity to bind to zinc. So even if you're eating a food that's rich in zinc, for example, something like oysters, again, surprise, surprise, seafood, this is where all the minerals are left on the earth, it's in the seafood. Let's say you had oysters, but you consumed this with another food that was very high in something like phytic acid. So this could basically be any raw nuts and seeds, anything that hasn't been soaked and sprouted. This can literally bind to the zinc in the oysters and prevent the absorption, even though the zinc from the oysters is highly bioavailable. Because you consumed it with something that's high in phytic acid, we get a very low absorption rate. So I think the fact that food it just isn't prepared like it used to be. You know, we used to be doing sourdough, we used to soak and sprout things, and now it's all about convenience and buying things prepackaged. These things are much higher in phytic acid and these anti-nutrients, which binds to zinc. Zinc is also one of the minerals that's most susceptible to depletion when the body is in a state of stress. So if you have any form of chronic stress, or you drink a lot of alcohol, you have chronic infections, or you have gut inflammation, this is not only going to deplete it, but also, like especially with the gut inflammation, potentially reduce the absorption as well. So this is kind of a very tricky one. Also, in the modern diet overall, the average person, especially if you factor in this anti-nutrient content of things like phytic acid, the average person isn't even eating enough zinc on a daily basis. So just the fact that the foods that we eat now, we eat a lot of refined foods, and we're just not getting these trace mineral compounds anymore. Third on the list, we have selenium. This is also an extremely fascinating one. There are so many cool functions through all of these different minerals that we're looking at. And I really think that this is why this product is a panacea. This is why it helps for so many different people, because you only need to have a deficiency in one of these minerals for it to have a massive cascade on all of the different aspects of your health. Imagine if you have 2 or 3 and you can cover all of them with one product. That's pretty amazing if you ask me. So third, we have selenium. Super interesting mineral. I've actually done a lot of independent research about selenium aside of this. So interesting, so important, really helpful in many different areas. Heavy metal detox, it's just phenomenal mineral. So first of all, let's take a look at some of its functions. It can serve as an antioxidant via the glutathione peroxidase detoxification enzymes. This is a very key pathway. It protects the thyroid gland from oxidative stress. And it's required for the conversion from T4 to T3. So this kind of ties in really importantly with iodine. And this is one thing that you might notice about some minerals is they're often paired. So for example, sodium is paired with potassium, magnesium is paired with calcium. And in this case, selenium is paired with iodine. We also had a look at zinc just a minute ago. Zinc's actually paired with copper. This is something that I found really interesting. There's a lot of pairing when it comes to minerals. So selenium is going to help in a lot of areas that iodine was. Reproductive health, hormonal health is also really important for detoxification. And one of the main reasons for deficiency of selenium is it's very similar to zinc in that when the body is in a state of chronic stress, so if you have chronic infections or gut issues, or you've been dealing with any kind of chronic health problem for an extended period of time, let's say 6 months plus, you're probably just tanking your selenium levels and you just depleted the selenium. So it's one of these ones that's very sensitive to chronic stress. And that chronic stress can come from anything. That can even be work. That can even be having a newborn. So if you're like a new mum or a new dad, this can deplete your trace minerals as well. Fourth on the list, we have manganese. So manganese is something that I also have done a little bit of research on. And the thing that I found most interesting about manganese is it supports something called SOD. So this is superoxide dismutase. This is actually an enzyme that a lot of people have mutations in. So So they have an SMP, a single nucleotide polymorphism. I have this. So in my genetic code, I have a weakness in my SOD2, superoxide dismutase 2. And this is a manganese dependent enzyme pathway that protects you from oxidative stress, specifically protects your mitochondria from reactive oxygen species and oxidative stress. So for someone with this enzyme or someone with a manganese deficiency, this superoxide dismutase pathway isn't able to function correctly, and your mitochondria become far more susceptible to oxidative stress. This means that when you are exposed to any type of inflammatory compound or toxin or something, you're far more likely to develop something that looks like chronic fatigue syndrome. So it's really, really important because we want to protect our mitochondria because they're literally the powerhouse of the cell, and they're what produce all of the energy that lets us produce stomach acid, that lets us detox, that lets all of these enzyme pathways function. Everything is dependent on the powerhouse of the cell, just the raw units of energy that are produced. Manganese also has some really important roles in supporting connective tissue, cartilage, and the health of bones. So anywhere that we've got collagen going on, especially in these more structural tissues of the body, manganese is really important as well. And finally, it's also used in bile formation. So if you are struggling a little bit with bile, you know that I'm a big fan of looking at bile. It is important that we make sure that we cover this manganese base as well. And again, broad spectrum product will cover this. So for this mineral and basically all of the rest, I'm just gonna say it now to save me repeating myself over and over again. All the rest of these minerals, these are really trace minerals. These are in the body in such tiny amounts that the reason that we need a product like this now is they're just simply depleted from the soil. These are already present in the soils, in healthy soils, in such a tiny amount. These were depleted a long time ago. We're talking even like 30, 40 years ago. These had already been stripped from the soils because the amounts of them is so small. So this is true for manganese, but you will see this is also true for everything else that we're going to cover, for chromium, molybdenum, boron, all of these things. These are all depleted from the soils. So next we have chromium, but I actually want to group chromium and vanadium together. The reason that I want to group these two together is that the most significant influence that I have seen them have is on blood sugar levels and people's ability to regulate their blood sugars. And when you consider the fact that in the modern world, we literally have an obesity epidemic. People are really struggling with diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And these two minerals, these chromium and vanadium, these are two really important molecules in blood sugar regulation. So first of all, chromium enhances insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism directly. It also helps to stabilize energy and reduce sugar cravings. And on the side of vanadium, vanadium is an insulin mimetic mineral, which means it improves glucose uptake into the cell. So this basically means it mimics the function of insulin. So it gives the body another mechanism by which to move the insulin from the blood into the cell, which is essentially what insulin does. And that's what people with poor insulin signaling are struggling to do. It also supports energy metabolism and may reduce insulin resistance. Well, there's not really much may about it. It definitely reduces insulin resistance. If we're giving the body another mechanism to move sugar into the cell that doesn't rely on insulin, we are going to improve insulin sensitivity directly. Next, we have molybdenum. This is a really interesting mineral, really interesting for you, especially if you have any problems with metabolizing sulfur or sulfur-based compounds. So if you react to things like glutathione, NAC, onions and garlic, or if you're sensitive to sulfite compounds. So this is often found in wine, dried fruit, and also this helps us with metabolizing aldehydes. So these are compounds that can be produced from a gut dysbiosis like candida or SIBO, these types of gut dysbiosis, or even a mold exposure. We can be exposed to aldehydes from an active mold exposure. So if your body is struggling with these things, molybdenum is a really important mineral to help us metabolize and break these compounds down. So the reason for this is that molybdenum is actually a key enzyme cofactor for sulfite oxidase and aldehyde oxidase. So these are basically two pathways by which we break these compounds down inside of our body. And if this molybdenum isn't present in sufficient amounts, it's going to suppress the amount or the rate at which these pathways can function, which means we're going to bioaccumulate, which means the aldehydes and the sulfides are going to accumulate inside of the body. And it's kind of like creating a traffic jam. And no one likes being in a traffic jam, especially your body. Your body does not like being in a metabolic traffic jam. You will feel terrible. And if you think about it as well, there's this really interesting phenomenon that I've noticed where nutritional deficiency and environmental toxicity go hand in hand. And you get to see a really good example of this here. Because if your body uses molybdenum, this trace mineral, to help metabolize these compounds that are produced specifically by like candida and mold, if you are exposed to mold, not only are you going to accumulate mold toxins and candida producing these aldehyde compounds, which is going to create toxicity, your body's going to try to upregulate these detoxification pathways, which are dependent on molybdenum, which ends up creating a molybdenum deficiency. So we get increased levels of toxicity, which depletes the molybdenum levels. And then you're stuck in this situation where we've got toxicity and deficiency presenting at the same time. They're actually the same thing. So we need to fix both of these problems at the same time. We need to address the toxicity component, remove this source of exposure, and address the deficiency that was caused from this exposure. We do have some potassium in this product, but it's a very small amount. It's 99 milligrams. I'm considering this such a small dose that I'm considering it like non-effective. It's a non-effective dose. If you want to learn more about potassium, I literally have a full video where I talk all about potassium and how important it is. I'll put a link somewhere here or over there and talk about why it's so important, how to get it in your diet, especially because potassium is one of these minerals that's really hard to get as a supplement, actually. You really have to get it through food. So if you want my full potassium guide, I'll put a link like here or somewhere here or down there, somewhere. There'll be a link to the potassium video, which leads us on to boron. Boron, absolutely amazing. One side note before we get into boron, just as a really interesting thing that could be really helpful for you, one of the best pest controlling compounds is boron, boric acid. If you mix boric acid with something like sugar or honey and you put it down, you can feed it to any kind of pest that has a hard shell. So if this is ants, if this is termites, if this is anything that has a exoskeleton, it is the most non-toxic and safe pest control I've ever had. I've had ant infections twice in previous houses and apartments, and just making this little mixture of boric acid and sugar completely solved the problem. No harsh chemicals, none of these like toxic sprays, completely inert to humans, completely natural. You take it, literally it has boric acid in this supplement that we're going to take, completely natural for humans. So boron has some really interesting functions inside of the body. First of all, it improves calcium and magnesium utilization. Therefore, we have generally stronger bones. It's also anti-inflammatory and supports vitamin D activation, which kind of ties hand in hand with this calcium, magnesium, and bone strengthening effect. It can also support testosterone and estrogen balance. So if you're someone that is dealing with osteoporosis, if you're someone that's struggling with chronic infections and low levels of vitamin D, maybe boron is an important part of the equation for you. If you're dealing with high testosterone as a woman, maybe PCOS and insulin resistance, probably you need this. We've got the boron, we've got the chromium, vanadium, these things to balance the trace minerals. If you're struggling with estrogen metabolism, so let's say, for example, a bit like me, you're a man that has had a mold exposure in the past, and if the body is struggling to clear these estrogen compounds, boron really important for this as well. So finally, we have one other thing in this product. This is horsetail. So this is actually basically like a herbal extract. And I believe the reason that this is added in here is it's naturally extremely high in silica. So the mineral that we're looking at here is silica, but in this case, they're getting it from a whole food source. So silica is actually really important for strengthening hair, nail, bones, and connective tissue. It also supports collagen formation and remineralization. So it's a little bit similar to manganese in some of these functions. So overall, I hope this gives you a broad spectrum overview as to why something like a trace mineral product might be really helpful for you. And now you know a little bit more about each of these individual minerals and how they have an impact on your health. Hopefully this has helped you to decide if this is something that you want to try or not. Now, I can only talk about the efficacy of this specific product. And the reason that I did this and the reason that I dove into this product specifically is this is actually the product that I am using personally. So I can attest to all the benefits that I've been feeling from it. I do know that it's from Seeking Health, and I do actually really like that brand. But I can tell you that there are other trace mineral products out there that are just as good, probably even better. I don't have any affiliation with this product. I've just been feeling really great with it, and I wanted to share my experience with you. So if there's something in here that you don't want or you can't tolerate, for example, maybe you don't want the molybdenum, or maybe you don't want the iodine, whatever it is, there's probably a product that you can find that will contain some of these other compounds that you would want. But overall, if you think you can, I would try a complex because a lot of these things work together. It's the same reason that B vitamins are often sold in a B complex because they all work together. They have very similar functions and interactions. The same is true of trace minerals. If you take just a single supplement, you're always at a risk of improving a metabolic function of one place, which upregulates the metabolism of this, which then creates deficiencies across the board with lots of other minerals or lots of other nutrients. So whenever you are taking nutritive elements, it is better if you can have a broader spectrum because then we don't run into solving one problem and then creating a different deficiency because we've upregulated a pathway that's then depleted another nutrient. So I would say if you can, do go with something broad spectrum. And this does pair really well with a good B complex. So all of the benefits that I've been getting and that I've experienced, and also with all of my clients, we're also using a good B complex in combination with these as well. If you'd have any interest, I could look at making a video similar to what we've just done now, but looking at a B complex. So we can look at all of the different B vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, even things like folate, B9, and we can look at, should we use folate? Should we use folic acid? Should we use folinic acid? We can look at B12. We can look at even some of these other ones like inositol, which used to be a B vitamin and it isn't considered a B vitamin anymore, or even something like vitamin B10. There are lots of other things that you don't really hear about very much, but these are really important for overall health. So if you'd be interested in seeing a deep dive where we look at what makes a good B complex and how does a good B complex combine with a trace mineral product like this to provide a very impactful nutritive base for you to build your health, your gut health, your detox, your healthy hormones on top of, please leave me a comment. Actually, I want you to do this. I want you to put a little picture of like a little pill. Put an emoji of a pill and say, B complex, B complex. Let me know that you want it. I don't like to make videos that people don't watch or that you're not interested in. So if you're not interested, don't leave the comment. But if you do want me to make a B complex video, leave an emoji of a little pill and put B complex next to it so that I know that you want to see this video as well. Now, if you have any questions about this video, please do feel free to leave me a comment below and I'll read through. I read every single comment. I try to get back to as many as I can. It is hard. The channel has exploded recently. You know, we basically gained nearly 1,000 subscribers in a single month. So if you're new here, I'm William. I've dedicated my life to healing and I'm bringing you along for the journey as well. You're coming along and you're healing with me as well. So if you have any questions or if you need any support, you can always leave me a comment or shoot me an email, support@williamdickinson.co.uk. We're super friendly. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. And if you've got a bit more of like a personal question, you know, maybe you don't want to paste it over the YouTube comments section. So you can always shoot me an email if you want. But that's everything for me today. I hope you found this video really interesting, very helpful, very informative. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.